And then the map that's actually in your packet is this version, the 2016 Bike Route and Facilities Plan. It has that underlying set of information about the bike route designations, but also on top of that then are the facilities that are proposed along each of these routes. So those include sharrows, bike lanes, and buffered bike lanes, and then in some cases pathways. In the map, it's a little easier to see than on the big screen what the underlying colors are for the routes and then the facilities themselves. And again, for those folks interested, there's a large-scale map behind me if they want to take a look. So that is the map that's before you and what would be included through adoption of the resolution this evening. Just couple last little things here, and then I will be done. The plan also talks about where we go from here, future enhancements and programs. Education and outreach is obviously a huge piece, and we have a lot of work to do there to help the bicyclists and the drivers and everybody understand the system, what the rules are, how it works, what the signs mean, how to get from point A to point B. That type of education is going to be, through face-to-face type things, through press releases, through articles of the paper, websites, social media, maps that we'll produce, the whole works. There's a wide range of things that we anticipate there. Signage and wayfinding plan, we talked about that a little earlier. Obviously, that will have to be implemented. Here on the right, you see the Moscow Greenway sign. This is what you will see out on the trail or out on the Greenway tomorrow if you come take a ride with us. Those are in place, at least in one direction on the route today. Into trip facilities, things like covered bike parking. Here's an interesting example of one of those types of facilities. They come in all shapes and sizes. We will be building a covered bike parking facility just outside City Hall, right on this bit of green space here off to my left. That'll happen next summer, so we have grant funding for that. So design for that will happen this fall and winter and off to construction in the spring. Other facilities like that throughout the downtown, it could include things like, storage for bicycles, repair stations, things like over at the library now. If you go out in front of the library, there's an air pump that's there. I'd like to see more of those around the community. University of Idaho has some of those as well. And then addressing things like maintenance policies. How are we going to maintain these facilities? What gets priority? When does it happen? That type of thing. Crossings and intersections, we mentioned that those are issues identified in the plan. In the future, how do we want to address those? We've talked about one of those or many of those types of intersections we need to address, as well as signal design and timing. Right now, our signals are primarily set up for vehicles. Some of them do recognize bicycles. It's a bit spotty. Depends on the kind of bike you're riding, where you are on the lane, what the signal location is. Some entities use bicycle signals, so they add additional signal heads at an intersection that are dedicated for bicycles so that they have a movement within the cycle. Sometimes it's an all-way movement. Sometimes it just is a way to get across a busy street when there's not very many cars on the cross street, that type of thing. Those are things we'll look at down the road. Okay, the last thing I need to just mention is it came up in the Public Works Finance Committee last week, a question about are there any previous resolutions or maps that we need to address with this particular resolution. So we've done some research on that. Rod and I and our city clerk, Lori, have spent some time looking at those things. What we found is that all the previous resolutions, and there were 1991, 2000, and 2007, addressed motor vehicles on bike and pedestrian facilities, not really designation of bike routes. So the 91 plan initially established that you can't, we're going to create this map. It was called a bike and pedestrian way because the code in the police powers section identifies that you can't drive your vehicles on bike and pedestrian ways. And so it was a map saying these are those routes or these are those places, these are those facilities that that are being referenced in the code. And it's an enforcement issue, really. And it primarily includes facilities around the university, a lot of those walkways that are up there, those types of things, but it also includes Paradise Path, a couple other path segments around the community, not much outside of the university. That was done in 91. Again, the intent was to provide the ability to enforce the no motor vehicle rules on the paths. In 2000, it replaced the 91 map. In 2007, it replaced the 2000 map. Those are the only ones that we were able to find. They're not specifically related to bike routes. They're more of a bike facilities for enforcement perspective. So we don't think there's any need to modify the resolution to address those because it's a different issue, and that map needs to continue to exist. So with that, I will attempt to answer any questions. The action before you this evening, if you so choose, is the approval of the resolution, which would adopt the bike route and facilities plan.
Okay, with all that being said, previous resolutions have nothing to do with this resolution. Is that correct?
That is correct.
In the summary? Okay.
Yes.
Any questions for Les?
Mr. Mayor?
Walter?
Not a question, but a comment. I've commented before that I love the internet. There's a 2014 Spokesman Review article talking about biking to work in Washington and Idaho. I was questioning Les's 4.6% in Moscow, which I thought was low. Turns out it's not. In 2008 to 12, the American Community Survey showed that Moscow was at 5.0%, and of the selected cities they used in Idaho and Washington, it was the highest percentage of bike to work shown. Caldwell and Nampa were down at 0.3, Lewiston at 0.5, Coeur d'Alene 0.9, Boise 3.7, and like I say, Moscow was shown at 5. The highest one in Washington was Olympia in this list at 4.1. So we are a biking community, and I think what's being proposed tonight will help us become more of one by recognizing the routes and trying to help people find their best way around. It can be a little discouraging to move into town, grab your bike, try to go downtown, and you're looking at some particular hill that does this, and you think, well, I can't go downtown, I'll just get my car. So there will be ways around. The map presumably will help people find that in the wayfinding. So there you go.
Catherine? Yeah.
My question is just about tomorrow. And are we, from Friendship Square, are we going east or north to start on the Greenway path? I guess, and can people pick up as we go? That's kind of what I was, like, if they weren't going to come all the way down to Friendship Square, can they pick us up on the way?
We're actually going south down Main, and then we'll cross Washington, about 8th Street. Isn't
Yes.
that the intersection?
That's
And up
Yep.
8th Street.
Oh, okay.
What is that? Logan, we go up to Logan, turn right,
Okay, so we start south.
go down.
Start south on Main.
Harold.
and then-
Okay.
The mayor had to memorize it because he's leading.
Well, I actually wrote it. Well, Les and I wrote it.
Right.
And it was
And make sure you didn't take us the wrong direction when we got out there.
Well,
Well, I just wanted to make sure, because I think there's people that'll pick us up, you know, as we go.
Catherine, it's like pushing buttons. You never know where I'm going to go. I mean, I got to be zooming all over town.
You're gonna take a steep route.
all over the place.
Thank you.
Well, we'll have the ceremony up front with the biking award designation and some words about the Greenway and the bike system, and then the ribbon cutting.
Well, and
The
with
event
that-
starts at 5. I suspect we'll probably hit the trail 5:15, 5:20-ish. And if folks want to pick us up on the route along the way, they're certainly welcome
And
to do
there's
so.
speaking points. There's spots that Les wants to stop, kind of explain things as we're
Oh,
going
okay.
A
through
few places here and there,
There's
people
some
may
good
have some
places we can
questions.
Stop for a few minutes and talk about stuff. So, Gina.
Les, I would like to strongly encourage you to put something of that size down in the chamber for this. I mean, this is the time of year when we start seeing all of the tourists and all of the, what can we do for an hour in our community? And this is a great suggestion. Get a little exercise, see what's cool. So please do be sure that you use our social media and our marketing ability too. Please.
As it so happens, we have 2 maps about that size that will be at Friendship Square tomorrow on solid boards. We can certainly drop one off at your office.
Excellent. Good.
Walter?
Any other plans to get this information out, to publish the fact that it exists, or to tell people how they can get a copy or that kind of thing?
Oh, yes. Obviously, the normal outlets, if you will, web pages, social media, those types of things. Social media is already going on the Greenway and the ribbon cutting tomorrow. We anticipate actually creating a fold-up map similar to what you'd find in other community that can end up in places like the chamber, the bike shops, those type of facilities. So somebody comes into town, it's like, how do I get around? Well, here you go. Possibly some smaller scale maps. And then we've even talked about things like phone apps that will go to like Google Maps. They will take your map information and incorporate it into their site information, so that if you're in a community and you say, okay, I want to bike from point A to point B, it will pull up the route information and suggest routes for you based upon your bike map. So we're looking at that type of an option, and then anything else that we can come up with. So yes, we need to spread the word, and obviously we have to go through this process first.
Yep. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like
Jim?
to move that we approve the 2016 Bike Route and Facilities Plan and the attached resolution.
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion by Jim and a second by Gina to approve the 2016 Bike Route and Facilities Plan and the attached resolution. John, I'll start with you.
Aye.
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 Okay, very good. Thank you so much, Les. We look forward to this. Tomorrow evening will be fun.